welcome, everybody. This is the Chris Salcedo Show worldwide here on the Vida television network, our inaugural broadcast. And let me start off with a bit of honesty here, because as you're going to find out, I am always going to give you the truth as I see it, and I'm going to be as honest with you as I possibly know how to be. This was not the broadcast we wanted to do for our first show out of the gate on the Vida television network. As you will see in the coming days, the broadcasts we actually wanted to do first, but current events being what they are, breaking news being what it is, we were compelled to do this show instead. Not only because of the gravity of the situation about what happened out there in Las Vegas, what is now being called the worst mass shooting in American history, with 58, potentially 59 dead, and over 515 people injured at area hospitals. This was a big one. I've also got to be honest with you that some of my family members were involved. You'll hear from them a little bit later on the program. My sister and my brother-in-law, along with some friends, they were there at this concert when bullets rained down on 22,000 individuals who had gathered there for a 3-day music festival. And throughout our time together this evening, we'll try to give you as much information about the shooter, although I got to tell you, his background remains rather elusive. But I figured we'd start out by first off letting you know how you can get in touch with the Chris Salcedo Show, because I imagine over the coming days you're all going to want to share your perspective on what has happened. And you can do that in several ways. You can go to chrissalcedo.com, ChrisSalcedo.com, and you can find all the links to all the Chris Salcedo shows. And we do 2 radio shows every day, and also links to the Vida television network, and also email if you want to drop something off that way. Or you can go to at Chris Salcedo TX, at ChrisSalcedotx, as in Texas, the state where I'm broadcasting to you from tonight. All right, so those are the ways you get in touch with the program. We'll start off this evening by focusing on what the Oval Office had to say about today's tragedy, and the President of the United States, Donald Trump, saying the following.
My fellow Americans, we are joined together today in sadness, shock, and grief. Last night, a gunman opened fire on a large crowd at a country music concert in Las Vegas, Nevada. He brutally murdered more than 50 people and wounded hundreds more. It was an act of pure evil. The FBI and the Department of Homeland Security are working closely with local authorities to assist with the investigation, and they will provide updates as to the investigation and how it develops. I want to thank the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department and all of the first responders for their courageous efforts and for helping to save the lives of so many. The speed with which they acted is miraculous and prevented further loss of life. To have found the shooter so quickly after the first shots were fired is something for which we will always be thankful and grateful. It shows what true professionalism is all about. Hundreds of our fellow citizens are now mourning the sudden loss of a loved one, a parent, a child, a brother or sister. We cannot fathom their pain. We cannot imagine their loss.
As I said, my feelings tonight, there by the grace of God, go I. My family members are safe, although I wouldn't say unaffected, but they are safe at this point from danger. You'll hear their story, and it was one that I thought I was prepared to hear, but as you guys will probably see, even talking with them earlier on the radio program, it was emotional for me. Here's what we know. Stephen Paddock is this guy's name, age 64. He was living in a place called Mesquite, Nevada, and he showed up to Las Vegas on the 28th of this last month in preparation, it seems, for this concert. He was armed with at least 10 rifles, according to police. And he had set up not one, but 2 firing platforms. And he fired straight through the glass at the Mandalay Bay Hotel, which is designed not to open in those big hotels, 32 stories up. He overlooked, for those of you who don't know the venue, it's a parking lot across the street from the Mandalay Bay parking lot, big open space where they stage a lot of these concerts. And he had a perfect vantage point from his perch on the 32nd floor, firing whatever weaponry he was firing. As of airing of this program, we don't exactly know the caliber, but judging by some of the video and some of the audio that we have heard, rapid fire. It could have been easily weapons that had been modified, that could have been sold as semi-automatic and could have been converted into automatic weapons. The brother of this guy was interviewed and seemed to be completely oblivious that something like this could happen. There was, by every account, there was no police record of this guy ever getting so much as a parking ticket. He was a complete unknown to police. And as a matter of fact, the constabulary have come out and said, there was no way we could have prevented this. Some folks in the basket of biased press asked, how does this happen? And the police who were responding said, what do you mean, how can this happen? We had no ability to track this guy. He was not on our radar screen. Something that you guys are going to find from me, being a conservative and someone who believes in personal responsibility and in the freedoms that we enjoy in this country. There's an axiom out there, and I want you all to learn it and know it. Even if you happen to be a progressive or a liberal, there's something you ought to be clued into about the way we do things here in the United States of America. As a liberty-loving Latino, I know this, that in a free society, sometimes that price is that people who abuse that freedom. And the solution in a conservative's mind is to punish the individuals who abused the freedom, not to punish those who are law-abiding. And that leads me into a rather disgusting display today by Democrats. Americans who had their lives turned upside down yesterday, last evening and into today. Democrats have already hit the airwaves calling for gun control, even though we don't know the circumstances as to how this man got his weaponry, whether it was legal or illegal, and the police saying there was no way it could have been prevented, that no amount of gun control would have made a difference. But you see, our left-wing adversaries reveal themselves every single time they step out of line, every single time that they put cart before the horse. And here's what they informed us today. They want the guns. They want your ability to defend yourself and defend your family with this foolish notion that government is on every corner and that government will always protect you. And you and I know the stupidity of that way of thinking. As a matter of fact, recent natural disasters have proven. The one in Texas, for example, where the FEMA response was pristine. It was excellent, way ahead of the game, and still it wasn't enough. The Energy Secretary, the former Governor Rick Perry of Texas, said if it weren't for everyday Americans pitching in, it wouldn't have been enough. And for senators like Chris Coons and Elizabeth Warren to get out there and already start calling for the guns, it's revealing, it's disingenuous, and we expect nothing less from these debaucherous individuals who call themselves Democrats. All right, coming up next, we'll hear a personal account, those who face down bullets in Vegas, on the Chris Salcedo Show Worldwide. And welcome back to the Chris Salcedo Show Worldwide. Glad you chose to watch us on this inaugural broadcast of this program. This is not the one we intended, folks. This is not the one we wanted to actually start off with, but because of the nature of the breaking news with the mass shooting in Las Vegas, we felt compelled to start here. And this tragedy hit home personally for me as I told you in the first segment, my sister and my brother-in-law were targeted by this madman along with 22,000 other concert goers in Las Vegas. This is how our interview went earlier today. All right, good Monday morning, everybody. I'm glad you've tuned in here to the program, The Chris Salcedo Show. I say good Monday morning, but it's far from it as we wake up once again to an act of terrorism in our country. And you know what? And whether it's radicalized Islamic fundamentalist terrorism or whatever the genesis is, because there's a lot we don't know about this. It is terrorism, no matter how you look at it. I want to bring on some folks who were on the scene in Las Vegas at the Mandalay Bay Hotel for this concert. It was called Route 91 Harvest Festival. It was a 3-day event, and they just happened to be relatives of mine, my sister and her husband, Michelle and Brian Earp. Guys, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am gratified, first off, on a personal level, as I already explained to the folks on the program, how relieved I was you guys are okay. Michelle, we'll start with you. From your vantage point, where were you guys relative to the stage here, and when was the moment when you realized something was wrong?
God, we were just talking about that this morning. It's almost like we all recognized at the same time. We're watching the concert. We're to the east side of the stage, and so basically Mandalay Bay would have been to the right of us, and that's where the shooter apparently was, which obviously none of us knew it. So it was, we just heard really loud cracks and we thought it was fireworks.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you looked, you didn't see any fireworks. And then when we heard the noise again, then people started saying, is that a shooting, you know? And then as soon as the stage went dark and Jason Aldean ran off the stage, everybody knew. And then everybody just hit the ground all in one solid movement.
This happened at 10:10 last evening, local time, folks. And Brian, I've heard some of the video, and it's hard with all the echoing going on because of the tall buildings on the Las Vegas Strip to tell just how rapid the gunfire was. Some are speculating, and it's only speculation, that this was automatic weapons fire. What did it sound like to you?
Absolutely. Something of large caliber like that, almost, AK-47, something of high caliber, because the range and just the noise was unbelievable.
Wow.
It was definitely a bigger arm.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much news you guys have seen this morning, but the guy killed himself before police were able to breach into his, or as the police were breaching his room. They found in excess of 10 rifles in his possession, and he broke out the windows that are unopenable on the 32nd floor of Mandalay Bay. Folks, my sister and her husband, Brian and Michelle Earp, are our guests right now on the Chris Salcedo Show this morning. They were right in the thick of this. Michelle, you guys were there with a whole bunch of folks, too, from Southern California, yes?
Yeah, we knew about 30 of us that are out there, or out here. And so we kind of just it's almost like we all just grabbed our spouses. Uh-huh. So everybody was paired off in couples, and everybody just started to run for your lives, basically.
How many? So everybody's okay in your group, right?
Yeah, fortunately, everybody made it out.
Brian, how concerned were you when it became clear these weren't fireworks and folks started running for cover and running for the exits? I mean, I've never been in a situation like that. I can't even relate, where there's a stampede of humanity around you. What was it like with individuals? Did you fear that if the gunfire didn't get you, individuals trampling on you might?
Yeah, we felt that we were far enough to the east that when we took off running, that we didn't have very many people behind us that we thought we were going to get trampled. It was more just running with our backs to the gunfire and the fear that we were just, gonna feel something hit us. And that there, I mean, you can't even explain the fear that you're going through, and just, having no control over, the next move, really, and just trying to get to a point where you're going to be safe in a position to not get hit, and not know where it's coming from, if it's coming from other places, or if it's just an isolated place. I mean, that was the scariest thing. Are they on foot walking around?
Yeah, that's what was the worry.
You know, and we dove under almost like a big trailer and just nestled in behind the tire, and it was just getting peppered. The trailer was just getting completely peppered by gunfire.
Good grief. Shell, I know you probably haven't had a lot of time to, not a lot of sleep and not a lot of time to process this, but has the full weight of this hit you yet?
No, probably not.
Yeah,
it was just so surreal. It was almost like being in like a movie or something. You're just going, this could not be happening. And then in your mind, you're thinking of, different shooter situations where they're just going to be like Brian said, we didn't know if they're on foot. We didn't know where it was coming from. You didn't know if it was, they're coming at you from every angle. So that's why we decided to go underneath the trailer. And I thought, well, at least if they're walking around on foot, hopefully they'll walk past us, because we were trying to hide ourselves under the trailer. But then good thing we did, because when I was running out after the gunfire stopped and we got out of the trailer, I saw somebody laying on the ground, and I don't know if she got pulled over there or if she went down, with maybe the bullets that were going over the top of the trailer. I don't know.
Well,
crazy.
Crazy. And one of the words a lot of folks are going to be used describing this incident. Look, I love you both very much. I am very glad you guys are safe, and thanks for on very little sleep, coming on and sharing what you guys went through. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, guys.
Chris.
Talk to you later.
Okay.
That's Michelle and Brian Earp, folks. My sister and brother-in-law on the Chris Salcedo Show. So that was a firsthand account of individuals that had been through this nightmare, what is being called the deadliest mass shooting in American history. Now we'll talk to my good friend Megan Barth, who is based out in Las Vegas. She is the proprietor of ReaganBabe.com, and this is what she had to say. I want to welcome to the show an old friend of the program who is gracious to talk with us on a moment's notice. Megan Barth, who is the founder of ReaganBaby.com. She is based out of Nevada, folks, and correct me if I'm wrong, Vegas, yes? That's where you are, right?
Hey, Chris, yes, and it's ReaganBabe.com, and I am based out of Las Vegas. I'm about 10 miles from the Mandalay. I live south of the Mandalay.
Well, why don't you do, since the local folks are usually the ones to find out the latest information first before the national media catches on, what are you hearing there on the local level?
What I'm hearing on the local level is that he may have had an accomplice, and by he, I mean the shooter, who's identified as Stephen Paddock. This morning, or last night actually, when the shooting started, I got on Twitter and connected to a police scanner and was listening to live updates from the LEOs that were on the scene and that had surrounded the location of the shooter within a half an hour, I would say, of when the shooting started, which to me was amazing because it could come from the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel. And the Sheriff Lombardo, who is with Las Vegas PD, he had put a person of interest out into the press who is Mary Lou Danley, who may or may not have been living with the shooter as a wife or an ex-wife or a friend. She is now in custody. She was basically, they couldn't find her for hours. They now have detained her and are questioning her at this time.
Now, they live in Mesquite, Nevada. Relative to Las Vegas, where is Mesquite?
It's about a half hour, 45 minutes. It's a rural area. So it's about a half an hour, 45 minutes from the Strip.
Okay, gotcha. Now, the Mandalay Bay Resort and Hotel fairly well. Paint the picture of where the concert venue, where over 22,000 people were gathered for a 3-day concert event. Paint the picture, if you will, of where the Mandalay Bay Hotel is situated compared to where the venue was.
It's basically 300 yards across the street. And across the street, I mean Las Vegas Boulevard. And so Las Vegas Boulevard and the Russell Tropicana is kind of in between, is kind of the coordinates. So literally, the shooter, I believe, had planned this very well. We know that he checked in on Thursday. He had an assault or high-powered rifle. He had perhaps a belt clip because of the sequence of shots and the amount of shots fired. He had posted up in a hotel room that looked directly over the venue and gave him a full scope and full range from his corner room to all sides of that field, both sides of that area and that field where many music festivals are held. We have music festivals, Chris, here nearly every week. And so this field in particular is used quite a bit for these types of festivals. So it tells me the location of his hotel room, how he had set up. He broke out 2 windows on each corner. Was definitely planned and premeditated.
Well, a lot of the reporting that's coming out is indicating this guy that this wasn't fly by night or a spur of the minute decision. As many are finding out, he had done a lot of preparation to make sure that he was in the right place at the wrong time. Megan Barth, our guest right now, she's founder of MeganBabe.com, a nationally recognized political commentator, women's rights advocate as well. Look, what is the mood in Las Vegas right now, from what you've been able to determine, that this has now gone down as the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history? What can you tell us?
Well, I think a lot of us here are on edge. We're kind of known as the smallest, biggest city. We're a valley of folks who, a predominant number of us, work in the industry, work in the hotel industry, work in the service industry. We are a community in the valley that's comprised of a lot of LEOs, active and former, retired military. And so we now have lines that are literally circling around the block for all of the blood banks here for the injured. And that's really what we need right now, is because our hospitals literally are busting at the seams with over 400 injured. And we need blood desperately. And so you see, not that we've ever had anything like this happen in Vegas before, but when there is a crisis in Vegas, when there is a need in Vegas, I've been here for 2 years, and I'm always astounded by the amount of people that come out and help each other in this valley specifically.
What's the situation now along the Strip? My understanding is some of the hotels are reopening to allow access to guests who were pushed out last night. My sister and brother-in-law happened to be among them. Are folks are they being allowed to go back to their hotels and to gather their belongings? Those who are probably visiting from other states?
They just reopened the Mandalay Bay, so it's been shut down for nearly 12 hours to guests. So they just reopened it, and that was just minutes ago before we got on the phone.
Okay. All right. What else are we missing? What else do you think that folks around the country need to know about what's happening out there in Las Vegas?
Well, the latest now is the reports that ISIS is claiming responsibility for the attack, that the shooter had converted to Islam within the last month. You know, I don't know, again, if this is propaganda by ISIS trying to claim, the largest mass casualty shooting in the United States. It could be part of their propaganda. It could be true, but it's something that we definitely have to look at. And like I said, I don't believe in a lone wolf. I don't believe in lone wolf terrorism. This is a form of terrorism, and I do believe that the shooter did have an accomplice because of how he coordinated and planned this specific attack. And it may or may not have been his contact within the Mandalay Bay Hotel, but something tells me it's much larger than just a guy by the name of Stephen Paddock. There was a lot of planning.
Yeah. The authorities have been pretty tight-lipped of the exact number of weapons and the caliber of the weapons that he had in his possession. Have you heard anything maybe there on the grounds, or maybe from a source you have there that we haven't heard around the rest of the country, about what exactly he had in his possession?
So far, I've heard 10 weapons.
Yeah, that's what we're hearing too.
That
Yeah,
was the
10
latest
or more.
report.
At
Yeah.
least 10 weapons is what
10 or
we're
more.
hearing. Yeah. All right. Well,
And so, just so you know, we do have open carry here in Nevada. We do have concealed carry. You cannot open or conceal in a casino. So
Okay.
how he got this amount of ammunition and guns into one room defies all logic.
now, do they have metal detectors and all that kind of stuff into the Mandalay Bay and
Well,
hotels like it?
Not that I'm aware of, but there are so many cameras. There's eyes in the sky everywhere. It's very hard to get away, really, with anything in the casinos. However, this begs the question, what new security measures are going to be put into the casinos? Because as you know, Chris, anyone from the street can walk into a casino. You don't have to be a hotel guest.
True.
And so, to put metal detectors at the front of a hotel perhaps is next. That's really going to be a challenge. And it's going to change the way Vegas is welcoming to visitors and those off the strip into casinos.
Folks, you've heard Megan and I talking about speculating a little bit, but trying to get as many facts out on the table as we know. Megan, I wanted to get your reaction to there are already elected Democrats who are but before we've even determined what happened, before individuals are even the families are allowed to grieve, you have Democrats going out calling for gun control without even knowing any of the facts. What's your reaction to that?
Disgust, just absolute disgust that they would politicize the tragedy so soon. If this were a Muslim terrorist, there would be, again, calls for gun control instead of really trying to find out the root cause. Typical Democrat tactic to politicize a tragedy that has zero to do with gun control. The gun that this gentleman used seemingly seems like it was illegal. There were already laws in place. So no law is going to stop someone from evil.
30.
Yeah, it's true.
It's the perpetrator and not the gun.
It's true. Megan Barth, everybody. She's the founder and proprietor of ReaganBabe.com, nationally recognized political commentator and a women's rights advocate. She is on the ground in Las Vegas, Nevada, and appreciate all the information you're able to give us, Megan. We'll talk again.
Thank you so much, Chris. Appreciate it.
Well, there you go. A tragedy unfolding in our country. Another one. The biggest mass shooting in American history has now taken place in Las Vegas. The politicizing, folks, that I mentioned with Megan, it's only going to get worse. There are going to be those out there who want to ratchet this up and make this an excuse to take away your right of self-defense with firearms. We don't think that's appropriate. We don't even think it's appropriate right now when individuals have not been able to say goodbye to their loved ones. There is a place you guys can drop off your sentiments, and I want to hear from you. Go to ChrisSalcedo.com, ChrisSalcedo.com. You can drop me an email there, or you can go to Twitter at ChrisSalcedoTX, at ChrisSalcedoTX, or jump on the Facebook page. Until tomorrow night, it's the Chris Salcedo Show. We'll see you then.